Great. Good evening,
Hey,
ladies and gentlemen. It is
good evening, everybody.
it is Thursday. Thomas Hampson live, Adagio live, the place where classical music happens, and we're happening in Madrid behind the scenes with Pablo Heras-Casado. Hello, Pablo. Good evening, guys.
Hello, Tom. Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
I'm
So good
good.
to see you.
You are like a bee looking for the kelch of a flower. You're,
Exactly. So we are. This is really live. I feel like a BBC correspondent from Spain, showing you Teatro Real, because now in Teatro Real it's happening live today in 1 hour. There's a live performance of Traviata, which
yeah.
is one of those things that we all have been used to all our lives, but now it's an event that there is live music. And in fact, I can show you. I'm in the corridors of
Yeah.
Teatro Real,
Oh,
and
how
I
fun.
can show you some of the costume in the ballet room. This is for next season, Ballo in Maschera, all the costumes. This used to be one of the rehearsal rooms in Teatro Real. They're all busy, and of course, lots of security measures. And there's some costume people, taking all the costumes ready for today's performance. And it's very exciting that here in Teatro Real is holding a Traviata
I saw
performance.
I saw some pictures from it, and it looks like a remarkable social distancing kind of platform, which has a very modern feeling to it. And I must say, half of the casts, you have what, 3 or 4 casts, and half of all of them are very close friends of mine. So I probably should fly to Madrid.
Some violin players, some warming up. You know, this is now going back to real life. It's a life, in Madrid, where after having had such a hard time in the theater in Madrid is quite extraordinary. And yeah, as you were saying, we Teatro Real has been very bold and courageous to put together this semi-stage production, when every single day there is a Traviata stage at Teatro Real, and with audience, of course. So there are 20.
How many in the audience?
In the audience, it's half of the audience, so it's about 1,000.
Okay.
No, so it's 900 exactly.
And the public is really quite into this. No, they're very happy.
Absolutely. Everyone is very excited, and everyone in the theater, of course, is very excited. We have four different casts for Traviata, one conductor, 2 orchestras. And the good news is that opera is happening. Opera with audiences going on, and this is the greatest news.
Is this the first major project since the virus, since the crisis?
Absolutely. I have to say the last performance in the theater in the Teatro Real in Madrid was my last Valkyrie. I was conducting Valkyrie in January, February. And my last performance on the 29th of February was the last show when this theater was open. And now Traviata is happening again. And it's, of course, everyone is really exciting. And I'm working now on this amazing orchestra rehearsal space.
What a wonderful place.
It's a wonderful place. This is the orchestra rehearsal space, which is has an amazing view on the city. It's on the 8th floor of the Teatro Real, and I wanted very much to come here to show you this amazing view from Madrid.
Yeah.
And this is an empty room now, but this is the orchestra rehearsal room for.
I have sung in the Teatro Real a couple of times, but only concerts. And I've never been into the rehearsal rooms. I must say, I'm quite impressed that you can walk around the opera house with such unimpinged internet connection. That's fantastic. Wonderful.
That's fantastic. I think the theater now is very, very much well equipped in technology. And of course, before entering the Teatro Real, there are very, very strong safety measures, and including tests, temperature tests. masks and all kinds of measurements. So this is why I was just a couple of minutes later.
Well, Madrid is still essentially a hotspot, no?
Now it's very much under control, I have to say. Very much under control, and it, of course, it was a hotspot for the coronavirus for many months, but now it's because it was so hard, so difficult. Yeah. It's a city that has taken very strong measures, as safety measures, and it's one of the safest places in Spain, I have to say.
Oh, wonderful! Now, apropos Spain, let's start at the beginning. You are, well, first of all, you're just visiting this production. Do you work every year in the Teatro Real in Madrid?
Yeah, yes, I'm very proud. I'm principal guest conductor in this house, and I have a long relation with this house since 15 years or so, when I did some small productions and some pedagogical projects, and then Gerard Mortier came here, and he invited me to do a few very let's say modern and striking projects, and later now I'm part of the company, and I'm conducting a ring cycle. Actually, last year we did Valkyrie. Next season we'll continue with Siegfried, and yes, I have a wonderful relation with this house.
So every year another, and then in 3 years you'll do all four?
In 4 years, actually. In 4 years we do one opera per year, and it's a very exciting project. And then before that we did Die Soldaten by Zimmermann, one of the most challenging at every level production.
Phenomenal piece. It's a phenomenal opera.
It is. So it's a very exciting place to be in the opera world now. And
it always has been. I mean, Madrid, the Teatro Real is a incredibly important place. Now, and do you have an apartment in Madrid?
Yes, I mean, I'm from Granada, as you know. Well,
exactly. And I want to talk about Granada because I fell in love with it.
but yes, I also have a place in Madrid, and we have a house, and because my wife Anne, she works in Madrid, and the kids also go to school in Madrid. So I have half of my heart is in Madrid, and the other half is in Granada, because I was born in Granada.
Well, the last time we saw each other were concerts in Granada at the festival, and it was the first time I was ever in Granada. And I must say, like the other 3 million people visiting every year in Granada, I completely fell in love with it. We walked the city up and down, and it was fantastic. People were so friendly. But this extraordinary hall that we were in with the circular open roof, the Carl V auditorium on the top of Alhambra, that remains a rather spectacular memory, as well as the Symphony Fantastique that you conducted, and a few Mahler songs we might have done. That was nice.
A few Mahler songs. No, this was for me. I used to be the director of the festival. It's one of the oldest festivals in Europe. In Europe, I have to say, this year, the good news and the great news is that the festival is happening. Despite all this dramatic situation we are all living. So the Granada Festival is happening, the 69th edition of the festival. So it's amongst the oldest festivals in the world, and of course it's happening in probably the most spectacular place that you could imagine for a festival in the Alhambra in Granada, in this Arab palace built 1,000 years ago. And in the middle, as you were saying, where you performed in the Charles V, Carlos V palace, built in the middle of the Muslim palace, and it's one of the oldest concert venues in the world, because even if the festival is 69 years old officially, in Granada, in that very place where you sang all those amazing Mahler songs. Since 1873, people were doing orchestra concerts or classical music concerts there. So it's one of the oldest classical music venues or summer festivals in the world.
we can't go into a complete travelogue of Granada, although I did watch several of them before we came, my wife and I, because we wanted to know. You grew up, and you have an apartment in. You had a wonderful brunch for us all, in one of the more spectacularly beautiful and older places of Granada. But what I really want to ask you is, at what point when you were growing up, and even maybe as you were starting to be a musician, did you realize that you had been born into such an extraordinarily historically special and beautiful place?
Well, I mean, this, of course, we are born in Granada, we are spoiled because we think that this is the normal, this is usual, and you're surrounded by such an amazing environment. I grew up, I was born there, then I left for Barcelona and Madrid when I was a young boy, and I came back to Granada when I was 9 years old, and then I spent all my time there. And when
You went to music school in Granada.
I went to the music school in Granada,
And that's a very good music school, if I remember.
It is. And then I also went to the university and studied history of art. So maybe also this was something that coming from the effect that all this environment made on me. And so I studied music. I also studied history of art, and I was at the time and still very much influenced and affected by the aesthetics of art and the environment, and this has affected my whole way of understanding and looking at the world. When you all grew up in a place, it's not only art in a place where all the different religions and civilizations, it was Christians and Catholics, but also Arabs were in my place for 800 years. 800, which is
can you imagine?
Can you imagine? And also Jewish and Romans and Iberians. So all kinds of civilizations have lived in the very place that you visited when you came home. And in that hill was one of the sacred hills where so many civilizations since 3,000 years they wanted to be and to live and to create a place for living. So this affects a lot the understanding of art and life and music. Of course, this has a very strong impact.
As one is a Spanish Granada, ancient city, wonderful, but is studying as a musician and going to be. Is the music study quite concentrated on early music as well? Because I mean, the Spanish music is so incredibly important.
Absolutely, and you are completely right. But at the time I started getting interested in music, and I mean in early music, at that moment in Spain was still like a desert in having such a huge heritage and huge patrimony on early music as we have. There's still a lot to be done and to discover, edited, and there are thousands of archives to be visited and rediscovered and transcribed into modern editions. So there was lots of work to do. And at my time, when I was 17, 18 years old, I did lots of work in the archives, transcribing and premiering in modern times, lots of neglected music from the 16th, 17th century from Spain. So my early steps into music were very much those of research, rediscovery, all the heritage that's still in Spain, one of the most intense, let's say, places where music was done in the Siglo de Oro in the 16th century. Spain was a real hotspot for music, but still the amount of music discovered is maybe at 10%. There's still another 90% of music to be discovered and to get to the people know. And I was very much involved into that.
When did you get out of Spain? or out of Granada or out of Madrid. I mean, you become this very highly recognizable international figure and important recording artist, and you know, it's all very exciting. The first time I ever actually experienced you, and you're still very young, but I remember I came down because Rolando invited me to come. Rolando Villazon invited us to come to Baden-Baden for the l'Élysée d'Amore. He conducted and sang, or he directed and sang. And you were the conductor, and I'd heard about you. I mean, I had heard a lot about you. Everybody heard about you, but I was, and I told you this. I was just completely taken away with what kind of completely unambiguous, fresh energy, as if the piece was being premiered that day. It was just strikingly lively and tight. And you know, not being a professional, I knew that must be accompanied with, you know, unbelievable amounts of rehearsal. But you don't get that kind of rehearsal in production. So it came from you, and that was just. So that was when it first came to my radar, and I started then listening to records and so forth. But the question I really have is, when did you move out of, what were the steps that brought you into the international forum, as it were?
Yeah, well, before answering your question, I think I told you last first time we met afterwards, and for me was a whole world, that the fact that was one of the big important milestones in my career, when I could be in Baden-Baden, recording that DVD and being in that amazing production with Orlando, with all these amazing artists. And then when I, after the opening night, and I went to my dressing room, the very first person who knocked the door, and I opened the door after the excitement of the last music, it was you. It was Thomas Hampson knocking my door. It was the first time we met, and I was so excited. I will never forget that. So after having said that,
I hope we knock on each other's doors many times more. But go ahead.
Me too. We will, for sure.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if I may, this is exactly the atmosphere that I love about the Thursday night visits with my colleagues. A lot of you know us, you know me, you know Pablo, maybe you don't know us together. Maybe some of you have actually never heard Pablo talk, which is quite special, having him talk about art and music and see him as the idea is that every Thursday I invite somebody, we have a conversation, kind of like, oh, well, I got to go now. I have to go down to the theater, which in fact you do have to go to the theater. It's like having a glass of sherry or Campari and getting caught up. So it's extremely enjoyable. I mean, that is one of
fantastic.
I mean, you have to find opportunity in crises. And I mean, this corona crisis sort of catapulted us at IDAGIO into the IDAGIO Live. And now we have this wonderful global concert hall project, which in fact is coming up now very soon with you, isn't it? What is that? What day is that?
Well, I was after being at home so for a long time, as we all have been, my first trip going back to music, going to live was no.
Good.
Talking about IDAGIO was going back to Berlin, and this has been one of the most special projects. I mean, the perfect way to be back to music and back to to life and to the life of we are passionate about. It was to record a triple concerto by Beethoven in Beethoven year with my beloved Freiburg Baroque Orchestra. This year we are releasing and we've been recording so much of Beethoven music, and we've been recording triple concerto with Isabelle Faust, Jean-Guillaume Queyras, and Alexander Melnikov. This is a trio. This is 3 stars.
Keep that one more. Keep describing. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do what I do in every session. I'm going to do a screen share and take us to the IDAGIO app. Keep talking, Pablo.
Exactly. So we've been recording for 2 days triple concerto, Beethoven triple concerto with this all stars soloists. We did already a tour with all 3 Schumann concertos 4 years ago, one of the most amazing musical experiences in my life. We Harmonia Mundi, our label, decided to reunite the four of us, together with Freiburg Baroque Orchestra, and to record triple concerto in Berlin. So we had 2 days of recording. And on that occasion, at the wonderful Teldec studios in Berlin, we got the amazing opportunity to also make a live broadcast. I mean, live it's for the Global Concert Hall, IDAGIO Global Concert Hall, that will be broadcasted on the 23rd of July. And we were all so excited to be part of this amazing project with so many great artists are part of now. And this is bringing all of us back to our audience, back to live, back to this global audience, and we're very excited about that. This will be on the 23rd of July from IDAGIO Global Concert Hall.
Now, I don't think the triple concerto is out yet, but this is
not yet. But the Beethoven, the Ninth Symphony, which is somewhere there, also the piano concertos.
But I wanted to just have a quick listen, because I absolutely love forte piano, and I think Christian, I can never say his last name, Bezuidenhout, he's just amazing. And of course the Freiburg. Now, are you music director of the Freiburger?
I mean, I am not, but I've been in the past 10 years, I think, or 9 years. We've been touring the world, recording at least 12, 14 recording. So we've been spending lots of time together, and not officially, but we are great partners, and we still have lots of projects coming.
Let's listen to a minute of Beethoven Concerto Piano for Piano Orchestra number 5, The Emperor. That's just the beginning, just for a little music. That is so cruel to stop like that. I really beg your pardon, but you get an idea of this amazing sound. I have so many questions. The Freiburger, and what I love is especially your recordings of the Romantic literature that leaves the instrumentation in the gut strings and the woodwinds and the real or all the brass. I think natural brass. So it's really before modern instrumentation, which I think is. It just brings because you gave me the Schumann and the Mendelssohn, and I mean the Mendelssohn is just a completely different sound world. It's just a completely different kind of liveliness to why the piece probably felt like he wanted to write it. If you get my drift.
Absolutely. You see, my story with this absolutely amazing orchestra, and sometimes I say they're the best in this. In this approach to music, and maybe I think I'm right. It's that when they wanted to step forward in the repertoire, they have a 25 years history of researching and performing Baroque, late Baroque, classical repertoire, and stepping into the early Romantic music. They approach me, and I have also my own trajectory on early music. So we stepped forward together, fresh and passionate and new, on wanting to rediscover, in their case to discover, because they were new and fresh completely into this literature, to this repertoire. And I had conducted already for a conductor is Mendelssohn, Schumann, Schubert.
Right.
It's part of our let's say menu, the daily menu. But when we started this series of Die Neue Romantik, so the new Romanticism, it's about resetting the idea and the concept that Romanticism, despite being conceived as kind of the core traditional orchestral repertoire, something that we all know within the on the opposite idea of this concept, it's the absolute radicalism and wildness, subjectivism, and the concept that every single piece, every single composer has a unique, crazy way of experimenting, finding a new path to connecting to somewhere, to the transcendent, also to the inner world of the soul. And it's completely the opposite of a routine place or a common place or a tradition. There's a lot of tradition about this repertoire and a wonderful tradition in the past decades. But this repertoire was set, all those composers were setting an absolutely personal and revolutionary way of expressing themselves. We wanted to revisit, like from scratch, all this repertoire with instruments, original instruments, to rediscover the colors, the approach, the language, and to just let's try to forget about traditions and to look at again at the score and to try to make every single performance of these pieces a new event, like contemporary music. They are the composers that the generation of composers that composed in a more conscious way, thinking that this is really my own voice, my own contemporary music.
But I've always been impressed with, and as much as I'm so thankful for and believe in the democratization of classical music, and actually the classical music today sometimes criticized as being elitist, is so ridiculously misunderstood, because without the freedom of the two revolutions, American and French, and the demonstrative push to individual determination in the 19th century, we wouldn't have the canon of classical music, which tells us that story. But where I want to go with this is that still, even in the early Romantic, the publics for which the subscriptions were sold and the people that were supporting the orchestras and the impresarios and the conversation of the creation and the first listeners were all musicians. They were talking to one another. The composer was composing for somebody who would have been listening and said, I'm not sure that's the structure doesn't make sense, or was that phrase, there have been some kind, I don't mean just bitchy things, I mean literally participating with, oh, I get what he's trying to say, but maybe, or just being completely obviously overwhelmed by some of the great genius that being written. But that I'm just trying to illuminate a little bit more what you're talking about, this personality, that it's like I would imagine, like writing a book. Who's your audience? For whom are you writing this? For what purpose are you saying what you're saying? And I just have the feeling that there's exactly what you've described, that there's that world of the early Romanticism that sometimes is taken completely for granted. I think we've rediscovered that in Beethoven's music, not just because of this year, but in general. One listens to the symphonies and has a conversation with the great old man. By the way, your new recording of the Ninth with this orchestra and I believe the Zurich chorus, no? This is just taking everybody by storm. It's just a wonderful, wonderful recording of Beethoven Ninth. Do you find, by the way, since you go, and I'll find a question here somewhere, since you do work with different orchestras, and obviously modern orchestras as well as period orchestras, but not only that, you have some recordings of Bartók, Stravinsky. You know the sound fields of many different musics. What happens to the agogic, if you will, the phraseology of a piece with these two different kinds of orchestras? In other words, if you played your Schubert or Mendelssohn with Berlin or
Mhm,
Madrid,
mhm.
you know, and
Yeah.
then you play it with the Freiburger, or as we talked about your future work with the Concertos Musicus. What happens? What do you have to adjust? What becomes necessary because of the different instrumentation?
Yeah, well, there are two very interesting things on what you said. What you said now. First of all, I mean, all your comments about the s- the starting point when the audience and the critics they knew already about the, let's say, the average style,
Mm,
when not only the romantic composers but already Mozart
mm, mm,
and Haydn, Beethoven, when they decided, when Mozart composes the Symphony Number 40 in G minor. Nowadays, we somehow we listen to that music as a kind of, okay, this is peaceful, this is relaxing, and I like to read while I'm conducting. They would be absolutely, I don't know. I mean, because that music, they all wanted to create something that makes you feel uncomfortable, makes you feel out of your comfort zone, and makes you yeah,
yeah, well put.
confront to yourself,
Yeah,
and they wanted to make a point, an impact, and by changing the structure, changing the tonality, they're creating a new harmony, because people knew about what is the, let's say, the common language and the common discourse, and they were all radicals, and the critics and the audiences reacted in such a way that they were disturbed. They were disturbed about all that music. Even in the 18th century, 19th century was even wilder and even
much.
more. So this is also has to be a lot. It's related to this agogic way that you were talking. You're talking about. Somehow, period instrument orchestras is not so much about the physical instrument that they are playing with let's say, a copy of an 18th century instrument. Or, of course, it's important to recreate the texture, the sounds, original sounds, but it's much more about the mindset.
Yeah,
When you have a phrase, when in that music, nothing is written about how do you have to phrase, how do you have to make, a note a little bit more intense, a lighter, the next one lighter, and then to finish in a softer way, or on the opposite. So this is the rhetoric that is coming, and they inherit it from the past, from the Baroque, from the
mm,
classical style, and
mm.
all the musicians had that way of, the gestural way of. And then somehow in the in modern times, we've lost this ability. When we were listening to the introduction, Christian Beethoven was playing of these arpeggios and the Beethoven piano concerto. It's not just arpeggio; he's telling a story.
Bravo.
It's a kind of
Yeah,
recitativo.
exactly.
We have three chords, and after
Yeah,
each chord there is a different mood, and he stops
yeah.
there and changes the moods, and he's putting words into music. And music has always to carry a message, whether it's a piano, a trumpet, a violin, whatever. So it's the rhetoric. And a Brahms symphony, a Schumann quartet, Beethoven, Beethoven and symphony as well. There is this rhetoric, this textual quality that is very important, and we have to also bring back.
Are you doing a lot of opera work as well now? I mean,
Yes,
you
yes,
have
yes.
opera in your calendar, but what is the proportion right now?
It's hard to. I mean, I would love to
Of course,
do.
now it's ridiculous. I mean, now the
Of
opera
of
houses are
course,
suffering probably the most.
yeah, of course. I mean, I would love to do opera all my life, but of course, I also want to do symphonic and
Oh, doing
early
opera,
music and
doing
chamber.
opera, you
But
become
but
a,
but but
no,
opera is the most wonderful thing, and being in a theater, living in a theater is it's the perfect place to live and to share. But
so
and
what are your what are some what are
I'm
some of your
I'm
projects?
doing like a 30% of the year of
Hmm.
opera. And nowadays it's more concentrated on here, this house in Teatro Real, where I'm doing the ring cycle. And apart from the Teatro Real, I do maybe one more opera elsewhere. And this year I was supposed to be in Berlin, in the Staatsoper, doing Don Giovanni, but it was unfortunately cancelled. This Don Giovanni. So after I did Nozze di Figaro a year and a half ago in the same house, we were going to do Don Giovanni. And
Pablo, can I ask?
Yeah, please.
Apropos of Wagner, how far can you take this original instrument idea? How far forward? Because certainly the strings would have all been gut strings. You know, I have this complete preoccupation with the sound of Mahler's music and even Mahler's symphonies at the end of the 19th century, with gut strings and actual wood playing clarinets, much less oboes. You know, I mean, it's a different, you know, it's not about just being clever. It's not, you know, all the jokes about Harnoncourt, God rest him, one of my most significant mentor. But, you know, there were always the jokes about why it took so much longer for him to recuperate after his surgery is because they, of course, operated with original instruments. Ha, 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 ha. You know? But actually...
I didn't know that one.
You know, there's actually, he told me that joke himself. But the point is how far... you know, without any gimmickry at all, because what we're talking about as musicians is that, yes, it is a fundamental expression inherent in different instrument building. And yes, I think some of the sins of the late 20th century, with phenomenal technical abilities as well as technical instruments, that our entire concept of legato, much less tempo, has become a little bit warped. Legato means how long can you play or sing without taking a breath, and tempo and energy in phrasing is how fast or how slow. And I don't think either one of those things have anything to do with legato or energy. So no. I mean, is it even possible to contemplate a Wagner opera in, you know, the next generation of 19th century instruments?
But absolutely. I mean, this is.
Are you going to be able to
do? Absolutely. I hope I will be. I mean, it's only a question of. But sometimes with certain composers and certain parts of the repertoire, they have more. Let's say the church is more powerful in one places than in other. In Wagner is very strong and powerful. The church, for me, means like the tradition, so the religion.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's, if we've been doing with Schubert, with Schumann, with Brahms, and with Bruckner, even, I mean, Wagner operas, I mean, Fliegende Holländer it's 1842, 1840, 42. So it's really very, very early, very early. So why not to open a door? Exactly. To open a door to some fresh information about the sound, the quality of the instruments, and this will bring also. But not only that. I mean, I always say, like our beloved Harnoncourt, when you read about his in his books about his thoughts, it's the instrument is not everything. I mean, like the original instrument, it's not like the ID you need for being authentic. It's the mindset. So go to the score as now I'm doing the ring cycle, and I'm using this wonderful edition by Schott with plenty of information from the moment when Wagner premiered the ring cycle in Bayreuth, and you have hundreds of footnotes, comments by himself about tempo, about a character, about, I mean, for the singers, for the orchestra, and most of them, let's say the 80% is saying, don't stop, just fliessend, and no rubato. Don't stop here. Not too sentimental. Everything is about that, and
actually, what exactly along, and when it is supposed to be legato, he says it. and you know, so there's
Absolutely.
this change of I remember I'll never forget as a young man having a rehearsal with the great Alberto Erede, an old Italian maestro, and he was working. I was singing Marullo, and we were in a rehearsal, and he was struggling a little bit. It was in Dusseldorf with his regional local baritone, who had a wonderful, glorious voice, and kind of like to let that go, which we all expect in Rigoletto. And Alberto looked at me and said, "You know, I won't say his name. He said, you know, you need to be careful in the recitative sections. You don't need so much voice. We need humanity. We need who you are in the recitative, because the cantabile then shows us how you feel about it."
Exactly.
And this rather primitive person, even then looked at Maestro and said, "Maestro, I think you're confused. There are no recitatives in Verdi." And I'll never forget, he looked and says, "Oh, dear boy, you must study the score." You know, I mean, for me, I was just a fly on the wall, but I just went, "Tush, tush, of course, of course." You know, it was a fantastically interesting conversation. But this plasticness, that always, when I go to the theater, I want to hear people think in a music called language, or a language called music. You know,
Absolutely.
it's not just timbre and sound and stuff all the time.
No, we shouldn't worry all the time. I mean, for singers and also for us musicians, just to be all the time being loud and projecting and I mean, remember many scenes in this Valkyrie I just conducted a few months ago here in this very place, and following his indications and Wagner's indications, that saying that this whole scene should be taken in a recitativo character, and also just don't stop. Just for this is indications for the conductor. Why conductors should avoid that when you have this privilege of having a direct message from the composer? So it's the most modern music ever written, before Mahler or before Debussy. I mean, he's so precise, and why should you avoid or just to forget that, and just because following a given tradition? For me, this is more than the instruments or the gut strings that would be very interesting, but this is the modern thinking that we need also to bring back to this repertoire too.
What's on the horizon for new repertoire for you? What are some new projects?
New repertoire. Well,
just new recordings or something, but
new recordings. I'm doing a Brahms symphony cycle with the Freiburg Baroque Orchestra. So we keep exploring. We go to Brahms, and we will edit very soon Rite of Spring with Orchestre de Paris in the next year for the Stravinsky year. I have Schumann the four symphonies with Munich Philharmonic.
Oh, fantastic!
And
next year, or the next couple of years?
Maybe in 2 years. Maybe it's already recorded. It's in the can, but
fantastic!
We come very soon. And then I'm very happy starting one of these very exciting projects. I'm starting next year in Vienna a complete cycle of the Monteverdi operas, and I'm so honored to be leading
at the Staatsoper or at the Theater.
Staatsoper is the first time the Monteverdi is entering Staatsoper repertoire.
Wow!
It's the first time, so it's an event. In the first time that Concertus Musicus is playing at Staatsoper.
Wow!
So I'm.
Congratulations!
This is very exciting.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to get some more plane tickets and follow you around a little bit.
This will be great. So that means that we will meet more often.
Where did you spend most of the Corona crisis? April, May.
I've been more in Granada, mainly in Granada, in the house you know, and
listening to music.
Reading, especially reading more than listening to music. Reading and gardening also.
Yes,
gardening.
Well,
yes. So I enjoyed very much doing all this, and now tomorrow I'm going back to Granada.
Are you going back to Granada?
Yeah.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, we've spoken of the Global Concert Hall again. You said the 28th, is that correct?
The 23rd, 23.
Excuse me, lady. The 23rd of July, the Global Concert Hall series, which you can find out everything you need to know by going to idagio.com. and find out how the global concert hall works. I tell you what the global concert hall as a concept is. It is an empowering of artists to make their art and music available to publics in an unencumbered, easy produced way. IDAGIO becomes the platform. The technical wherewithal that actually produces the concert is up to the concert presenter, if you will, or the orchestra themselves. And whether that's a piano and a voice or an orchestra or an opera house, it's all extremely interesting, but it is a paywall, so people can participate in actually artists' lives the way they should be. It is what I call the third rail of performance, because with this crisis, we have obviously entered into one, on the positive way, a very enlightened acceptance of a new digital universe. What we are now not doing is taking pictures of concerts. We are now producing concerts with people that are going to the concerts, but people like you that may stay home and participate in the concerts. So it's available for 24 hours according to your schedule. It's up, you can pay for it, which is a good gesture. Most people want to pay a ticket to go to a concert. They feel good about that, and I think that is important. The split is extremely generous to the artist. It's a very, and you know, it just and as well, the artists, you can only get to do a global concert hall if you guarantee that you are available personally for your public before and after the concert. This is something quite unique. So you can write in your questions. Pablo will answer before, probably after. He might give an introduction before. All different. It's an exciting development, and I'm really pleased that IDAGIO has launched on this. What we're doing, and some of the I've been doing a couple of months of song, another Tuesday night evening on songs. Those things belong more to what I would call a learning center, where you can visit and understand more about music. And Yvonne Fischer did a wonderful series on Mahler symphonies, for instance, and Kirill Gerstein did a wonderful series on Busoni and Bach and so forth. That's also IDAGIO, streaming, learning, and now the global concert hall. So it's a wonderful time. It's an exciting way to build opportunities out of a crisis time. We must move forward. We'll never go back. The concert world must find its own feet again. The opera world, obviously, and I know you have to go. You've got 11 minutes to get to your seat, which I think will be enough, unless you want a cup of coffee. So
I want to go back and meet my wife, who's waiting downstairs for me.
Yes, exactly. And anyway, as I said, I may go hit some golf balls. It's a beautiful day here in Zurich, or in Marguerite. You go. I wish I could go to Traviata. Please tell whoever the cast is. I know them all. Hello. Anyway, it's wonderful to visit with you, Pablo. It's wonderful to hear.
Likewise, it's been wonderful to meet you, and also especially to meet you and to be talking with you from an opera theater, and in a place where now there are like 200 people just excited to perform again with an audience. We are back. We are talking about music, about this excitement, and it's live music, but also we can share, as you were saying, with global audience all around the world, our thoughts, our excitement, our experience, and music as well.
Well, it's you, your generation, your energy, your knowledge, your conviction, your passion that is going to take us out of this crisis into our new future of classical music. And I salute you, and I greet you, and I look forward to shaking your hand again and making music. All the best.
Me too, my dear.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
You.
God bless.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.